Welcome to the episode 14 of Take It EV. Hello beautiful people, welcome to the episode 14. Just a bit of a housekeep before I start. Today, again, it's just me. No worries. I thought this was going to be a quick one. I've just been very busy for the last couple of weeks with multiple jobs that I have, and you know, being self-employed is really sometimes getting down on you. But never mind me. What we're going to be talking about today is the 20s.
Well, I do have an issue with punctuality, I have to admit.
So, the 20s, 2020 is upon us, and I thought I'll just sit back and reflect on, you know, what my own conception of the future of transportation was 20 odd years ago, and also what I think, you know, where we think this is all going. Then this is just my own thoughts. I'm by myself today, but that's fine. If you have any questions or you just want to engage with us, go to your Twitters now and follow us at Take It EV. And if you have any questions when you listen to this episode, or if you just listened to it and you were like, wow, this is great, at Take It EV, subscribe, you know, 5 stars, ratings and all that, please. Anyway, on with the show. So, when I was a little lad, there was a program on the TV, I can't remember the name of it, which was talking about the technical advancements of the future. All sorts of things. And I remember watching it and I was amazed by many things. One of those subjects was cars, of course, because that's what we are talking about here. Cars were one of those highlights of the show from time to time, and I was amazed that the vehicles of the future were supposed to produce water as a byproduct of you driving them. And of course, this isn't a number one things on my list today. It's, you know, something worthy mentioning every 10 or so years. I think we're still quote-unquote failing in this, and it's probably for the best. I'm of course talking about hydrogen. The hydrogen was supposed to be the miracle, the saver of all, from as long as I can remember. The early 90s, certainly, and, you know, probably before that, but I was too young to remember that. The hydrogen has not happened, of course, no surprises. Everyone back then was betting on it happening in the future, bearing advancements in fuel cell technology and manufacturing, of course. And obviously these advancements have happened, but we know that the battery technology got so much better than it has. It just has surpassed the hydrogen and as a sort of desired way to power our vehicles. But it's still worth mentioning that where we are from where we were thinking we are going to be now. Looking back on the sort of, from the sort of 2010 time frame, we undoubtedly imagined that hydrogen could be one of those sort of technologies of 2020. But today, we don't have hydrogen laptops or cell phones with batteries. This is of course due to the safety and convenience of that technology. Hydrogen, you know, sounds fantastic if you ignore all the problematic parts of the whole process. You have to consider the whole chain. You know, manufacturing of its storage and transfer are the sort of the most obvious ones. But again, this isn't a show about hydrogen. So some say that it might still be the future for the larger vehicles, lorries or semis, as Americans like to call it. Ships, airplanes, you know, there's already ships with batteries, so I don't know about that. The airplanes is the interesting example. One of the reasons we could consider something like hydrogen for air travel is, of course, the power to weight ratio, favorable in this case for liquid gas versus the battery. I don't know. I'm looking forward to the companies like Nikola, which is not a very original name, guys, to bring the hydrogen truck along with the very much required refueling network. Unlike battery-powered vehicles, hydrogen is not something we already have access to in our houses or places of business. But I'm still eager to see how their ideas are going to pan out. However, as far as our expectations, hydrogen is a failure. It did not pan out as well as some would have have liked it to be. I'm sorry, guys. So that's the failure number one. Batteries have won, and it looks like they're here to stay. From my own backyard, I was hoping, like, if you're new to this podcast, I've been driving an electric car for a while now, for 4 years. It's a Nissan Leaf, 30 kilowatt-hour Nissan Leaf, which I bought at the end of 2015, and I've received it on the 7th of January 2016. We've done 49,000 something miles, so let's just say 50,000 miles. And certainly back then, this was, 30 kilowatt-hour Leaf just came out. It was a new one. My car is one of the couple of thousands that came out as the first sort of initial batch for the UK. And, it was amazing at the time. Obviously, it wasn't a Tesla, but, it was certainly manageable in terms of cost and the distances that I needed to travel. However, I have imagined when I've received that car that my next car is going to be still a Nissan Leaf, because it's an amazing car from the build quality and sort of the fun to drive. There's certainly nothing that goes wrong with that car, and I can list things in here, but I didn't have to replace anything other than tires and top up the washer fluid. So that's certainly, Nissan is a company that know how to put things together very well, and and we're all hoping that in 3-4 years, so in 2019 or 18, that they will release the next big thing, and they will learn from their mistakes, and hopefully that they will drop the not so popular looking chassis of the Nissan Leaf. And we are in 2020 now, and Nissan is doing terribly financially. They stopped pushing EVs as much as they used to. That's certainly true from the sales perspective. And I don't know, I'm greatly disappointed in them. I have to say, from a company that was pushing the electrification forwards, the new CEO is just no, it's not the CEO. It's I can't remember the name of that executive or his position, but one of them was saying that basically, from their perspective and from what they've heard, the cables are terrible for part of our society. It's an issue to plug in the car, which is just like old. And another problem is that they actually want to push the type of hybrid that I sort of admire as an idea for your, I don't know what it was, like 10 years ago, which is the type of hybrid where you have the petrol engine generating power, driving a generator, which then tops up the battery, and you've got a relatively small battery driving the electric train, which is still miles better than any hybrid on the market these days. And don't get me started on a self-charging hybrid. There is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid. Technically they're all self-charging, but they're just petrol cars. So Nissan, unfortunately, is going to have to be on my list of things that, in our 2020s, didn't reach the heights that we were all hoping for in the last 10 years. I'm afraid. And there's still time for them to pick up, but I just don't see that happening. The new Nissan Leaf with 62 kilowatt-hour Leaf, or the Leaf Plus as they call it, is certainly amazing on the surface, but half of that car is still the same as my current car, as my Nissan Leaf 30 kilowatt-hour Leaf. They just did a bit of an overhaul on it. It still does not have the active battery cooling or active battery thermal management, which is just beyond logic, in my opinion. There is still no ENV200 with that large battery, which, by the way, ENV200 actually does have a thermal management on the battery. And, again, why make it different for the Leafs compared to the Vans? It's the same battery pack. So, yeah, Nissan is the second thing on my list that actually, that I wanted to mention that I had high hopes for, and it didn't happen. Let's take a small break, and then I'll move on to the next things, which hopefully will be much more positive. So the next item on my list is the charging network, and unless you've been living under a rock, you might have noticed quite a lot of private companies putting up chargers, certainly around the UK and Europe, and obviously we have the Ionity now. We have quite a few other networks in the UK, and I don't know names of all of them, but some of them have done amazingly so far, and some of them are just are okay. But the share of charging infrastructure versus the sort of the mile of the road is certainly getting better. So it's obviously required for us to be able to buy and drive electric cars in the future. Rapid chargers are obviously needed for long distance travel when you want to travel beyond the mileage of the car or the range of the car. But I think that's it's beautiful. They obviously, because nobody's really making money on charging or infrastructure, it's once the charger's been put up for a couple of years, even if it's maintained, but if it's used quite a lot, obviously it will more likely fail. Regardless of the charging company ethos and with the PR strategies. Some companies are boasting about their chargers being very, very reliable, but after a couple of years and heavy use, the reliability is still leaves a lot to desire. There's still obviously, I could complain a lot about the how some companies just decide to put a single charger at a location, and how that's terrible. Versus the other companies that actually have done the reasonable job of putting at least two in a single location and sort of structuring it so that it's easier for them to put actually two and doesn't cost them that much more to actually put a second one in. But it's all amazing. Like I've done a trip recently for a video that I'm still in the process of editing, and I was just amazed because there's certain trips that I do and certain sort of roads that I take quite a lot, and I'm always amazed. 2 years ago I would have to plan this route very carefully because if one of those chargers was down or I couldn't use it because it was PHDV'd or obstructed other way. I'll be on the back of the flatbed, but right now I just have to find another one, and there's another one 5 miles down the road. Job done. There's been quite a few places that I used to go to for one of my customers up north in Newark-on-Trent, where there was no single rapid charger in the village, and I had to actually charge at the customer office in the car park. Just run the cable using the granny charger. And right now I drove there recently. 5 rapid chargers in the area. Amazing. Thumbs up. So the charging network, just gets more and more dense on the map, and it's just amazing. Wales, it's another place where it was very hard to live with a 30 kilowatt hour, never mind 24 kilowatt hour Leaf. Right now there's probably order of magnitude more rapid chargers in there than there were 3 years ago. By which I mean 10 versus 1. Yeah, it's a joke. don't write to me about this. Right. So that's one positive. So let's think about the next positive thing, which is that electric cars are just obvious now as a future. 10, 20 years ago, it was still up in the air, whether we're going to improve anything else. Obviously, I don't have to tell you that, but there is no such thing as clean diesel or clean petrol. It's a marketing jive. Same as with self-charging hybrids. Or hybrids, period. Obviously, some manufacturers will keep on dragging their feet, for as long as possible. There are some other manufacturers that were brave enough and kind of surprisingly released their cars into production, and the first electric car that any manufacturer will produce will still be a bit of a gamble, and it's fine. It's fine. It still matters. Like, we have to embrace it and be positive about it, and support manufacturing sort of decisions. Any company that wants to transition themselves into electric has my vote. Obviously, going full blast electric is a brave move, and VW is obviously doing it with the entire group, which we'll see how that pans out. But we've sort of, I'm not going to sort of hide it, but because I've already talked about it on Twitters, but I think our next car is going to be a VW ID3. There you go. It's still up in the air a little bit, but 99.9% I think that's gonna be the case. So yeah, the sort of the visibility of electric cars and the certainty, I think it's amazing. Again, if you look back at what I was sort of viewing and listening to in 1990s or early 90s, hydrogen cars and hydrogen refueling stations, that seemed a bit sterile and whereas having an electric car now for a couple of years, I just have to say it's just the future we're all hoping for. So the visibility of cars and how much more compared to what it has been 10 years ago, have the whole idea has been embraced, apart from Nissan. Amazing stuff. Which leads me to, I've already mentioned it a few times, maybe not the disappointment, but the sort of the marketing fail and dragging their feet-ism that some companies do, Lexus and a few others. Hybrids. It's been 23 years since Toyota Prius has come out, which was the first mass-produced hybrid, and it was called 20 odd years ago. Back then, it was very hard to get a car that actually was, efficient and built for efficiency, especially for American roads. Like, we in Europe don't think about it so much, but in the distances in the US are so vast. There's and obviously people have much more space to waste, basically, and they're naturally more. They're not as efficiently inclined as we are in Europe, but they should be, in my opinion. And even if you have a massive area to live in, you still have to think about, you still have to manage it as a human being. But anyway, to travel a vast distance in a car, you need loads of energy, and the more efficient that energy is used, the better. Obviously, what doesn't help in certain countries is the fuels are relatively cheap. This is a subject for another podcast or another episode, or probably another podcast, because it would touch politics and military involvement to actually get those fuels and to secure them for civilization or country to use, which is another reasons why I'm just going to leave it or leave the politics at one subject. If you want to be truly independent as a country, you have to stop using petrol and diesel and oil. Energy from the sun and wind and shore waves and all that makes you truly independent. Okay, let's just leave it at that. So yeah, hybrids. I'm disappointed, like hugely disappointed. Never mind Nissan, but hugely disappointed in some companies dragging their feet and thinking that advertising yourself as an electric car, when it's just a hybrid, not cool, mate, not cool. I'm not talking about here, about the some car manufacturers who up to this point still don't have a purely electric car. I'm talking about car manufacturers that actually were thinking about it, but just using a self-charging name or self-charging marketing slogan for your hybrids, which are just, for all intents and purposes, for average Joe, it's still the same hybrid that you've been selling 5 years ago. You've just now removed the plug because there's no incentive to have it, and you're selling it now as a self-charging hybrid. It's just not cool, man. Not cool. But let's so all I can say is if you choose a car next time, think about not only the spec. There are some electric cars that are truly amazing in terms of the spec and range, especially. But where the car manufacturer is actually not fully aligned with the future, they still sell loads of mild hybrids, self-charging hybrids, whatever you're going to call it, and PHEVs and so on. One of the reasons why we went sort of as a decision, as a sort of almost final decision with ID3, is that the VW is actually going forwards fully electric. It's something to support. It's amazing. There's no, some things in life and in the business you have to be very not cutthroat, but very definite about. And releasing 50 different models of the car, and some of them are hybrids, mild hybrids, this and that. Just make up your mind, and and oddly enough, that will actually make the if you can think about the car manufacturers, and there's a couple of them. Some of them have troubles actually delivering the cars on time, and the waits are very long. If they streamline the manufacturing process, it will be very, very cool, and we would get those cars much faster. So there's two more things that I have to quickly mention. I'm running a bit out of time, but let's just talk about two other amazing things that enabled everything we have. And actually, let me go back to visibility. I went to cinema recently with my wife, and I can't remember what film we went to see. Doesn't matter. I've noted at least 5 ads for purely electric cars before the presentation, which blows my mind. I'm sitting there thinking, wow, this is the future I was hoping for. Now, if people are only buying them, and if the press would stop spreading utter bollocks about electric cars, it would be amazing. By the way, if you have anyone who actually wants to appear on this podcast, and actually who can talk about electric cars or any specific things we've been talking about, please send them my way. I would love to have more guests. So the last amazing thing, and I think something to look forward to, is the battery technology. This is the sort of the foundation that enables us to actually have electric cars and drive them, and it's just getting much better. Like even I went down on Nissan a little bit, but if you think about the car that I'm driving, 30 kWh Leaf, in almost the same footprint, they can now fit double that much, and it's been only 3-4 years. That's amazing. It just shows you that it's not gonna continue forever. Like at some point we'll have to switch materials and switch technologies slightly. obviously it's been changing every so much, which is one of the reasons why we've been able to progress so much. But it's only going to get better, I think. There's just no denying. So, here to batteries, which are going to power our future. Well, that's it for today's episodes. You know me, I could go on for another hour or so, but those were just some of my memories and sort of reflections for 2020s. I think this episode might be. I'm still going to think of a name before I release it, but let me know what you think. Is there anything else you think I could have mentioned? Is there anything you were hoping for in the 90s, say, or in 2010s or 2000s, and it either panned out or didn't? Reach out on the Twitter at TakeItEV. You can also email me takeitev@gmail.com, but I prefer discussions in public where other people can join in and pick up. So. Yeah, thank you for your time. You're all amazing. Please subscribe. Please, again, talk to us on Twitter. Suggest things. And what else can I say? Here's for the future and for 2020s and beyond. Thank you very much. Bye.